Hello, everybody out there. This is Robert Price, owner of Elite Minds LLC. It's good to see you all this evening. A good opportunity here to just kind of go live. I'm kind of liking this. Actually, it's pretty cool. Um, so it's an opportunity for me just to kind of share some good things. Actually, see Scott, you are on. Thank you for hopping in, and I'm just going to shout you out for a hot second while we're waiting on some others to join. But today actually is inspired by Braden. So I chatted with him a little bit, and part of our conversation um, prompted me to actually talk about process, how we track it. So that was one of the things that led me into a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be talking about processing what we're doing, not necessarily just progress goals. We talked about that last week, but the process and how do we actually track our juniors process. And so I'm excited about that and hopping in. Thanks for those of you who are hopping um, in all of the different forums that this is going live on. We have folks on YouTube. It's good to see you there. Good to see you in Facebook, in my group, um, Elite Mindset Championship coaching group. This is especially for you guys that are in there. You get to ask questions. So please do. Appreciate you guys that are out there. So we'll get started with some good content here in about 5 seconds or so, letting people see, man, Robert is live. Let's go check him out. So that's where we are right now. So I'm excited about what we're going to be chatting about tonight. So yeah, letting people hop in. See some more Facebook. Thanks for getting in. There's never the best time for these, but this is the time we were going to go with. So awesome. Good to see you guys in there. I see someone actually wants to be a member. We're going to hop you in there. Thanks, Kurt, for doing that. You can hop right in that live. Awesome. Okay, great. All right. So here we go. Yeah, let's do it. So one of the things that I had posted when I talked about this particular live is one of the things about it's not just more practice, but it's a smarter strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who are just coming in, one of the folks that's following right now or that's watching live is Scott Schneibel, and his son Braden is actually the reason why we are chatting. He won a hurricane event in blistering cold weather. It's cold most everywhere. We had a wonderful day here, though, 78 degrees or so today. So I know the golf courses were full. My kiddos decided to get out there and shake off a little rust as well. So we're in here, and we were talking, he and I, back and forth a little bit about what are some of the things that he is setting himself up for as far as progress goals were concerned. And we talked a little bit about that last week on this live. But one of the things that is really, really important was not only are we having progress goals, but how are we actually tracking our process? And if we are thinking about it, is it just more practicing, more 18 holes practice, more 9 holes practice? Like, what are we actually doing? What is the strategy that we're choosing when we're talking about practice? One of the things that I get to share with you guys is, I have experience in many, many sports. So I'm super blessed to be able to do that. And one of the things that I recognize is that uh, most sports requires some level of practice, and that's just the way that it goes. We have to use practice as an opportunity to build confidence around skills that we have. So that's one of the things that's super important for us. So if we're understanding that we have this practice that is required for us to build skills, which is we need, and build confidence around the skills that we're setting ourselves up to improve on, then when does practice and skill building shift to a better strategy so that way we can actually maximize what we're doing in practice for the event, for the tournament, for the actual round that matters? And so, specifically speaking about golf, is we have to get out there and practice, and we have to get 9 holes in, 18 holes in, sometimes 3 or 6 holes. And so, literally, one of the things that I always ask myself is it just about getting the holes in, or what is it specifically that we are doing while we're out there? And so one of the conversations for tonight is to make sure, excuse me, that our strategy is smarter, that we are actually transforming our strategy with regards to practice. Because we have to start figuring out at some point, and a lot of times when parents talk with me about their kid and really wanting them to get to that next level, especially mentally, is that they're really good in practice, they're really good in a practice round. However, we're not seeing those scores translate in the events. And so we start asking ourselves, well, what's different? And oftentimes, what's different is actually going back to how we're actually practicing and what we're practicing. And so many of you guys I know out there are paying attention to the types of practices that our professionals do, and they get an opportunity to spend ample time out there on the actual golf course and practice. I mean, this is their job, so they get many more hours out there than we do. But what we know is this: is that if we have an opportunity to actually practice, what then are the strategies that we're going to use while we're practicing? And I'm just going to put this in here just so that you guys can see why this is part of what I do. So I have partnerships and I have a marketing partnership. And so this particular partner of mine, we have strategy, a strategy, right, that we're going to monitor, that we're going to chase after, that we're going to make sure that we're doing the things that are necessary for us to be successful. This is part of the progress goals, right? This is part of the process of doing really well, doing things consistently well to continue to get a consistently great result. And so you can see just in this, I have my own Mindset of a Champion marketing partnership. And so you too will need a partnership when it comes to your mindset, a mental game partnership, whether it's with me personally, or maybe a process with someone else, or maybe with your parents out there starting to figure out, at least minimally, how can I be that person for them? But what we know is that there is an opportunity for us to really make sure that the things that we're doing in practice are really, really important, and they're going to actually help us do the things that we really need them to do. In every business, in every field of human endeavor, there's an opportunity to create a process or a better strategy to go about accomplishing the things that we need to accomplish. And so, what we're going to talk about tonight really is that process, and how do we actually begin it? How do we have a better strategy for what we're doing? If you guys allow me to just be with you for the next 15 to 20 minutes and just chatting a little bit. If you have questions, please go ahead and throw those in the chat. And for those of you who want to get a little bit more details about this, I mean, in the chat, wherever you're listening, you can just simply drop the word playbook in there, and I'll make sure that you get some details about how to get more of this content for this evening. But one of the things that I wanted to hop into is about the right strategy. So the first thing that we need to do, that we need to make sure that we're doing, especially if you're a junior golfer out there or for a parent of a junior golfer, is this fancy thing here. It's old school. You can't even read my little thing in there, but it literally says notebook. So we need one of these. We got to have a notebook. In this notebook, you can start the process of tracking. And so this is what I like to talk to my athletes about that I'm working with, is about tracking. So once you start tracking, then it's a lot easier for us to really begin understanding our holes and our gaps. So that's the first part. So we have to strategize the right types of practice. So what we like to do is this. In our notebook, we're going to do some simple things. We're going to simply write the date for what we have going on, because if we're practicing, we got to write the date. Also, with that, after you write the date, the next thing that we need to make sure is what we actually did in the practice. Whatever that practice was for us, especially if you're in another sport, but specifically golf, you like know what you're out there to do, meaning what kind of practice are you doing? So it becomes pretty simple. We want to look at short game practice. We want to look at putting. We want to look at maybe iron play, whatever it is that you're out there trying to accomplish. So the type of practice. I see Tony's out there, man. It's such a pleasure. Thanks for joining me up there in the cool weather of Ohio. Hopefully all is well. So what we want to do is really to make sure that we are tracking first steps, the type of practice or what we have practiced. So often what ends up happening is that people just go out, they practice, we ask them, say, hey, how was it out there? What did you do? Tell me about it. But we're not necessarily asking specifically, what did you do? So if you're a parent or a coach, sometimes you really want your players to come to you with your notebook, and it's easy. Now we can get the right strategy once we actually know what in the world we've been doing. So we got to come with something. We got to come with something tangible in our hands. So for an example, I work with a young man in college, and he's out doing a certain type of game, a different type of practice strategy, because what we've noticed is that he's a little bit of a slow starter in his collegiate events. And so it feels like for him, it takes him 3, 4, 5 holes before he's actually in the round of golf, focused, laser, right where he needs to be. So we've created a strategy to attack that in practice. And so not only have we created the strategy for the practice, we now begin tracking the strategy in practice. So for those of you who are new to me, I am a math and science guy. So I like numbers because numbers tell us a story, and it helps us paint a good map and a good picture. And so I want us to begin this process of understanding that although the things that I do will hopefully help make you feel better, however, I also know that I want to make sure that you're receiving the things that you need, and we can track that along the way. I want to make sure that when my athletes leave me, there's tangible information that they're able to go back to see, like, no, we started here and now we've progressed here. And we do that by a lot of times just using numbers. And I use a lot of assessments to do that, to make sure that we're tracking along the way. So again, we want to make sure that we have our notebook. In our notebook, we date the practice. We date that practice, and then we begin the process of actually saying what it is that we practiced. Once we get there, we're like halfway to the end. But the reality of it is we got to get started. We got to get started so that way we can understand that the strategies that we're using are more efficient over time. And so once we start that process, we now know at least when we're practicing, for how long we practiced, and the things that we did while we were at practice. Did we just go out and play 9 holes? Did we just hang out with our friends while we're out there? What did we do to prepare? Like, did we go through a full warm up, or did we just show up, take our clubs out, hit a few putts, hit a few shots, go play 9, write down some scores, and awesome. Or what did we actually do? Like, did we show up? Did we go through our putting routine? Did we go through a particular series at the range? Whatever the things are that you and your swing coach are working on, like what was the process? What did you do? So writing that down, getting in the habit, specifically as the player, really getting in the habit of, I have my notebook, mom and dad. This is the date that it was. These are the things that I did while I was at practice. Once you do that, then we can really begin to make an impact on the things that you are practicing. So we're going to talk a little bit about some strategy around this. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is, I call it preparing for bad shots. So we know in golf we're going to have some bad shots, and so we're going to talk about preparing for those bad shots. So I'm going to take a drink here. Again, wherever you are, if you want more of this and something specific that we get to offer you, like an assessment, maybe those 9 mental skills assessments, if that's something that you're looking for to at least kind of have a gauge of where you are on the mental side of things, go ahead in the chat for me and just type playbook, and I will make sure that we reach out and get that to you, so that way you can at least begin to see exactly where you are mentally with an assessment tracking, so that way you now know at least a baseline of where you are and what you're trying to accomplish. So again, you can type playbook in the comments, and I will make sure that you get what you need from me. So that'll be awesome. So let's kind of talk about this. So we know that we're going to have bad shots in our round of golf. And one of the things that we want to make sure that we do when we're practicing, meaning a better strategy when we practice, is to actually practice what we're going to do after bad shots. So here would be an example in your practice. What you want to do if you're going to go out on the golf course, sometimes they call it the 2-ball drill, and you go hit 2 balls and you hit the worst ball out of that. And I think that's a fantastic way to go about this. But I want to share something additional with you that you can do. So literally, when you go out on the golf course, or you're sending your student out on the golf course, or your junior, this is an opportunity for you to help them really begin to build some of this confidence that we're talking about. So you're going to you can hit a drive if you want to, whatever you like. But what we want to do is we want to practice throwing that ball, essentially picking that up, wherever it is, and go putting it in a spot that would be precarious, right? A tough spot, whether it's a fairway bunker up against the lip, whether it's literally in the woods behind some trees, whether it's in the mud or in a divot. And so we want to be able to practice literally the things that will occur to us on the golf course. You hear that often, but sometimes it's not, people do not explain or express how to go about doing this. And the third part of that really is, not only do they explain or give examples, then we don't actually track. So what we're looking for, if it's a par 4 and we do this, we're looking to see, are we able to save par? That's what you're going to be putting in your notebook. I played 4 holes and I put myself every hole in a bad spot, and then you're going to write down what kind of spot it was: behind a tree, in a bunker, in a divot, in the rough, in whatever it might have been, a bad drive that only went 145 yards, whatever that might look like for you. You're going to then write that down. That's part of the strategy. So you write that down in your notebook. It's a beautiful thing. Then you write, you hit the ball, you went to the green, you chipped, you one putted, whatever you did, those are those results. How did you what actually happened? So now we're looking at, well, I'm going to hit bad shots in tournaments. That's going to happen. It's inevitable. However, we go out and practice strategies that allow us, when we hit those bad shots, to work ourselves with this process. So we literally will put balls in places that we know, man, if the ball was over here, saving par would be amazing, but bogey's not a bad score. Absolutely. So now we go out and we actually practice this. We actually put it into practice on the golf course. Whether it's a uphill lie, downhill lie, side hill lie, different things will help you. Sandy lie, all the different here pine straw lies, behind trees, right side of the fairway, left side of the fairway. We have to put ourselves in these positions so that in practice we do that for 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. But ultimately what we're doing is we're writing that down here in our book. And for an example, if you play at a golf course where you got to kind of keep it moving real quick, then what we do is this. You do each of those things. You hit the drive, and then you go pick up your ball and you go put it where you would hit your second shot, and you play the hole from there. And then you go to the next hole and you do the same thing. You can do this around the whole golf course if you like. If you're going to go out and play 9 holes or 18, or you have to keep pace with whatever is happening behind or in front of you, you can do this no problem. So just to kind of give you a little bit of overview again. So I like to be mindful of your time. I know we'll have time for questions as well. So we go out. We want to make sure that our strategy is better. Once we go out and make sure that our strategy is better, now we can actually track this strategy and actually prepare ourselves appropriately for the actual golf course and the golf tournament that we're going to be playing in specifically, or the rounds that we're moving into. So I talked about bad shots. We all hit them. We hit balls in places that we say to ourselves, I don't know how it got there. Exactly. So go pick your ball up from the middle of the fairway, go place it there, put it in the divot, put it in the fairway bunker up against the lip, put it on a downhill, downhill sandy lie, uphill sandy lie, behind a tree, on pine straw. So you get to choose, pick, and do the things that you get to do. But then the main thing is making sure that we are tracking what we do. So if you play like this for 4, 5, 6 holes, you will write that down and the type of shots that you had to hit from those particular lies. And did you get up and down? Were you able to make par or at worst bogey from those positions? That helps build confidence, because we know that in tournament play, you're going to find yourself in one of these precarious situations, and you're going to have confidence that you know how to get in and out of that with no problem, or at least at worst, bogey is what would be there. And so we know that this is an opportunity for you to really begin to strategize. It's not just about more practice, like I got to hit more balls and play more rounds of golf and play more holes. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about creating a strategy, a smarter strategy to help transform your golf game. And this is exactly some of the things that I have an opportunity to work with my athletes around, is how do we then figure out, once you start doing it this way, now we can start figuring out some of those holes or gaps with your mental game, that we figure out how we manage our emotions out there. How do we actually have a game plan that allows us for getting mad if we want to, or whatever those things might be, because we would have already put ourselves in these situations and circumstances, and also now have a strategy that we're able to get out of these things. And so we start building confidence this way, using prior experiences in practice in situations that are tough, and seeing how we do that, or how we manipulate those things around the golf course. So I'm going to open it up for some questions. I have some folks out there in multiple places. So please feel free to ask some questions, type some questions in the chat, so that way I can answer them. So I will wait a moment and let some folks do that, and I will be excited to answer them. Awesome. Here is a good question. I will read it. So this question says, you talked about making sure that our junior golfer has a notebook. How often do you check what is in the notebook and do you share it with their golf coach? Yes, and yes. So yes, you check it after every practice if you have the time ability to do so. And if they have a golf coach, you share it with their golf coach because depending on what parent is out there listening and depending on your own ability to golf, um, their coach is going to really be able to help them figure out the strategies necessary to hit certain shots that we may not know as parents. So I mean, that's to me, what I try to do is video things in tournaments, try to hurry up and get somewhere and video it or take a picture. And I'll send that to our kids' golf coach so that they can see, like, oh, interesting. We haven't really worked on that or talked about that. How did they do with that? And then that way, when they're in the lessons, they get to ask them questions about, so what did you actually do? And maybe your golfer actually knows how to do that, how to um, manage their way around that. So, that might be something that I would share. That was a good question. But often, meaning every time they're out practicing, this is one of those things. It's like we're not out there just willy nilly out there. We really want to have a strategy out there. And then this kind of process, when I'm working with athletes, really helps them begin this understanding of, man, if I can do this in practice, I now have process goals for tournaments that I'm playing in, process goals for practice rounds before the tournament. So this is for me, this is how I start setting up my students for success. Great question. Anyone else out there have a question? We have billionaire Stanford out there. I don't know if you have a question or if there are any questions out there for me. Yes. Okay. Another good one here. Um, what do you do if you're watching your kid and they hit in one of these bad spots? What do you do when you're watching your kid and they hit into one of these bad spots? Well, depending on the type of event that they're playing, sometimes you can talk to your kid. Many of the events that my kids play in, they're literally on their own. So we get to talk with our eyes and our body language. But oftentimes, a gentle reminder is goes a long way, right? They know that at least you can remind them that you are part of this team and you got a mental strategy, you know what to do. And one of the things that you can easily do for your kiddo really is to just remind them of what they put in their notebook. So what they put in their journal, because if they're journaling and they're doing what they need to do, then it's a lot easier to remind them. So hey, what you put in there? You've practiced these things before, so you're really able to help them, remind them or communicate with them. So that's a really good thing that you can do. So that's what I would say to that one. That was good. My big thing is to always affirm emotions and avoid judgment. I try to affirm the emotions, whatever those are, and then avoid judgment because we're really good at judging and not affirming. So that's what I get to do. If there's any other questions out there around this, Koa wrote that parents don't have to remind us. We know. We typically, you're right. You guys know what's going on, especially our seasoned golfers, our younger golfers. They know a little bit, but they learn to know fast. So that is so true. Parents do not have to remind us. We know. Yeah, our eyes tell them the story. Oftentimes is what I say, or our body language too hops in there for sure. I see one of my USA shooting young ladies is in. It's good to see you. Hopefully all is well. Awesome. So if no one else has any questions, I just wanted to remind us again that the idea of what we're looking for in this space is we want to be able to look at our practice and have a smarter strategy, because practice can become mundane. So we want to make sure that it's not just about more practice or more experience. It really is about implementing effective strategies and effective systems that can fast track improvement. So today I gave you a little bit of a window in this of saying, hey, make sure that we're getting a notebook. Once we get a notebook, now we're able to make good sense of and follow along with what we're actually doing. So again, I really appreciate you guys taking a little bit of your time here, and just walking through some of these things with me. If there's no more questions out there, I appreciate your time. But again, if you're looking to grab more of these materials from me, just simply either DM me or type in this chat playbook, either on Facebook, Instagram, or even on YouTube. And so I will make sure that you at least get the 9 mental skills assessment. And that way you can at least start to begin to understand where you are, how you are set up for that success that we want to be able to walk and work through with you. So with that being said, have a wonderful evening. I look forward to working with you in the future and seeing you next week, Thursday at 5:30 Eastern time, on this live again.